people with superhuman abilities documented by science. Have you ever wondered if the human body hides abilities far beyond what we consider normal? History is full of stories about extraordinary individuals, people who seemed capable of defying biology, physics, and even common sense. Most of these stories live in myths and legends, but in some rare cases, science has stepped in and confirmed that certain people actually possessed abilities that were truly superhuman. Today, we are going to dive into the fascinating world of real-life superhumans, men and women whose skills, strength, or endurance have been carefully observed, studied, and documented by scientists. Some of them push the limits of the mind, others the limits of the body, and a few reveal mysteries that science still struggles to explain. Let's begin this journey. The Iceman. Wim Hof. One of the most famous modern examples is Wim Hof, known as the Iceman. Hof has shocked scientists for decades with his ability to withstand freezing temperatures that would normally kill a person. He has run half marathons above the Arctic Circle barefoot. He has climbed Mount Everest in nothing but shorts. He can sit for hours in ice baths, showing almost no drop in core body temperature. When researchers studied Hof, they discovered something remarkable. Through a combination of breathing techniques and meditation, Hof is able to consciously influence his autonomic nervous system, something once thought impossible. In controlled laboratory experiments, he could suppress his immune response to injected toxins, raise his core body temperature at will, and alter his heart rate and adrenaline levels. What makes Hof's case incredible is that science long believed humans had no control over these automatic functions. Yet here was a man, showing us that the boundaries of human physiology are more flexible than we imagined. The human computer, Shakuntala Devi. Moving from physical extremes to mental brilliance, we find Shakuntala Devi, often called the human computer. Born in India in 1929, she demonstrated astonishing mental calculation abilities from a very young age. Unlike most prodigies, Devi had no formal training. She simply seemed to see numbers in a way nobody else could. She became internationally famous after performing feats of calculation that even modern computers of her time struggled with. In 1980, she entered the Guinness Book of World Records by multiplying two 13-digit numbers in just 28 seconds, something that would take most of us hours, even with a calculator. Scientists who studied her brain activity noted that she didn't calculate in the traditional sense. Instead, she described numbers as patterns, shapes, and even emotions. While savant syndrome sometimes explains extraordinary mental abilities, Devi was not autistic, nor did she have any obvious neurological condition. She was simply unique, a rare case of a human mind operating at an almost superhuman level. The man who never slept, Thai Ngoc. In Vietnam, there is a farmer named Thai Ngoc who reportedly has not slept since 1973, after a fever. That's over 50 years without a single night of sleep. If true, this defies everything we know about biology. Sleep deprivations usually leads to severe cognitive decline, hallucinations, organ failure, and eventually death. Yet Ngoc continues to live, work, and function in his community. Scientists who examined him confirmed that he indeed slept far less than normal, often not at all for days. But his body showed none of the expected consequences of sleep deprivation. His health was surprisingly stable, and his organs functioned normally. The case remains unexplained. How could a human body adapt to life without sleep? Did his fever trigger some rare neurological rewiring? Nobody knows. What is certain is that his existence challenges our deepest understanding of human necessity. Magnetic men and human magnets. Around the world, there have been reports of people with the bizarre ability to attract metal objects to their skin, as if they were living magnets. While many of these stories turned out to be hoaxes, there are genuine cases documented by researchers. One of the most studied is a man named Miroslav Magola, from Croatia. He demonstrated that he could stick spoons, keys, and even frying pans to his body without glue or tricks. Scientists tested him under controlled conditions and found that his skin had unusual adhesive properties, not magnetic in the true sense, but still inexplicable. His skin seemed to generate higher than normal friction and possibly some electrostatic attraction. Although not as glamorous as true magnetism, the ability remains real and strange enough to puzzle experts. The phenomenon has been catalogued in medical journals as human bioadhesion, but no one has yet explained why it appears in only a handful of individuals. The boy with unbreakable bones, Ben Underwood's echolocation. Superhuman ability does not always mean strength or resistance. Sometimes it is about adaptation. Take the case of Ben Underwood, a boy from California who lost his eyes to cancer at age 3. Unlike most blind individuals, Ben developed a completely unique survival strategy. He taught himself to use echolocation the same way bats and dolphins do. By clicking his tongue, Ben could detect echoes bouncing off objects around him. This gave him a mental map of his environment. He could ride a bicycle, play basketball, and even recognize the shape of objects, all without sight. Scientists confirmed that his echolocation was real. Brain scans showed that the clicks and echoes activated his visual cortex, the part of the brain normally used for sight. Somehow, his brain had rewired itself, turning sound into vision. Ben's story is both inspiring and scientifically groundbreaking, showing the plasticity of the human mind when pushed to the limit. Super endurance, Dean Karnazes. Endurance athletes push their bodies in ways most of us can barely imagine. But Dean Karnazes, an American ultramarathon runner, takes it to a whole new level. Karnazes can run hundreds of kilometers without stopping, seemingly immune to fatigue. In one famous feat, he ran 50 marathons in 50 days across all 50 U.S. states. When scientists studied him, they found that his muscles produce far less lactic acid than normal. Lactic acid is what makes muscles burn and eventually fail during exercise. In Karnazes, his body seems to recycle this acid as fuel, allowing him to run far beyond normal limits. In other words, Karnazes represents what might be the future of human endurance, an example of biology optimized to survive the most extreme conditions of movement and exhaustion. Pain immunity, the woman who couldn't feel pain. In 2019, scientists at University College London announced the study of a woman known only as Jo Cameron. She had lived her entire life without ever feeling physical pain. She gave birth to 2 children with no discomfort. She broke bones and didn't realize until doctors pointed it out. When researchers analyzed her DNA, they discovered a rare genetic mutation in the FAAH gene, which regulates pain sensation. The mutation not only eliminated pain, but also gave her unusual resistance to anxiety and fear. Jo described herself as permanently optimistic, rarely stressed, and always happy. The discovery of her condition has huge medical implications. If doctors can replicate her mutation in drugs, it could revolutionize pain management for millions of people worldwide. Extraordinary memory, Kim Peek, the real Rain Man. Kim Peek was the inspiration for the movie Rain Man. Unlike the fictional character, Peek had an astonishing memory capacity. He could read 2 pages of a book at the same time, one with each eye, and remember almost everything he read. His recall spanned thousands of books, historical facts, and even entire phone directories. Neurologists who studied him found that his brain lacked the normal connection between hemispheres, the corpus callosum. This unusual wiring may have allowed his brain to dedicate more power to memory storage. Although he struggled with social interaction and daily living tasks, his memory made him one of the most extraordinary savants ever documented. The strongest man on Earth, Zishe Breitbart. At the beginning of the 20th century, Zishay Breitbart became legendary for his superhuman strength. Known as the Iron King, he could bend horseshoes with his bare hands, lift wagons filled with people, and pull trains with his teeth. While strong men often rely on tricks, Breitbart's feats were witnessed and documented by scientists of the time. His muscle density and tendon strength were beyond normal limits. Researchers suggested he may have had a genetic advantage, such as higher levels of fast-twitch muscle fibers or connective tissue adaptations. Though Breitbart died young, his case remains one of the most convincing examples of raw superhuman strength. Conclusion: the superhuman within us. As we've seen, people with superhuman abilities are not just comic book fantasies. They exist, and science has confirmed their cases. Some, like Wim Hof and Dean Karnazes, reveal the untapped potential of training and adaptation. Others, like Joe Cameron and Kim Peek, remind us of the mysteries hidden in our genes and brains. What these cases teach us is that the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary is not as sharp as we once thought. Each of us carries hidden capacities, waiting to be discovered. The people we've explored today are living proof that evolution, biology, and the human spirit still have secrets to reveal. So the next time you think of superheroes, remember, some of them walk among us, and their powers are very, very real.